to a war between police, who failed to tell you about a mass casualty terrorist plot, and the journalists who broke the news.
The Daily Telegraph is reporting a caravan laden with explosives and a note with addresses of Jewish targets, including a synagogue, was found on a property north of Sydney on January the 19th. Sources have told the paper a note reading "F the Jews" was also found inside. New South Wales Police are treating it as a credible terror threat.
The Daily Telegraph splashed the story with the headline "Primed for Massacre," alongside exclusive and chilling details about how police had been quietly investigating an alleged plot to blow up Jewish targets for several days. But then came the fallout. Jewish groups were so furious that their places of worship were on terror hit lists, but no one from New South Wales Police had given them a heads up. Now, in response to that, the anger is where the story really begins from a media perspective.
The fact that this information is now in the public domain has compromised our investigation, and it's been detrimental to some of the strategies we may have used.
Well, that was controversial Police Commissioner Karen Webb, who has presided over a litany of failures in her short time at the helm of the police force. Now, you have a right to know if there is a terror plot, and only the most bumbling of incompetent leaders would attack the journalists for informing the public. Her comments also turned out to be false. The investigation was never going to be compromised by media reports. After the Daily Telegraph was criticised publicly for its scoop, the journalists took the unconventional step of explaining the behind-the-scenes steps they took.
Can I just get your thoughts, firstly, Moz, on what Karen Webb, the Police Commissioner, had to say today? The fact that this information is now in the public domain has compromised our investigation, and it's been detrimental to some of the strategies we may have used. Now, you guys broke this story last night. What did you make of that comment from the Police Commissioner?
That got us a little bit angry, I'll be really honest, because the steps that were taken by this paper, masthead yesterday, the editor contacted senior New South Wales Police, said that he had some information that the Telegraph was looking to publish, but didn't want to compromise. I mean, literally said, did not want to compromise any investigation. Nothing was said, and then later in the afternoon, the editor was contacted and said, look, what you have, can be released. So, I mean, and if at any time Karen Webb thought this was being a compromise, she could have picked up the phone and asked the editor, Ben English, saying, can I ask you not to publish because there is a danger or there's an ongoing threat? And I'm telling you that I don't know how many times we have not published when asked by the police, and this would be exactly the same case. So what she was doing yesterday when she wasn't at a press conference when all this was being announced, she could have picked up the phone and stopped it at any time. We would have cooperated.
Police tried to spin Webb's comments, saying that they were misunderstood, but to us, they were very clear. We don't know if it was incompetence or malice, but Shari Markson broke this story yesterday on skynews.com.au. New South Wales Police failed to inform any Jewish community or security organisations of the fact that a caravan laden with explosives had been found in Sydney. Sky News can reveal the police also didn't inform the potential intended targets of the threat. So the New South Wales Police told the Daily Telegraph to run the story. Now, in my view, that indicates that it wouldn't compromise the investigation. And then they turned on the paper the moment that the Jewish community became rightfully infuriated with having to find out in the media that someone wanted to blow them up. And this mess is not an isolated example of Police Commissioner Webb's history with the media. When a police officer unlawfully killed this poor grandmother, Claire Noland, by tasering her to death, Webb oversaw a decision to take the word taser out of the early press release. Now, she should have been sacked by the New South Wales government on the spot the moment she did that, but she's been allowed to bumble on for some time, making terrible decisions one after another. Like this moment, she stood up at a press conference and thanked an alleged murderous cop for telling her where he hid the bodies of his alleged victims.
This information did come with the assistance of the accused, for which we're very grateful, and I'm sure the families are very grateful.
Well, joining me now is this week's panel, Managing Director of PR Council, Christy McSweeney, and former media editor at The Australian, Darren Davidson. Darren, let's bring you in. What do you make of this entire saga, this shoot the messenger approach from the police, who are attacking the journalists for a story, for informing the public about this very real danger?
It's an absolute shocker. I mean, firstly, full credit to Ben English, Mark Murray, the Daily Telegraph team, and also Shari Markson for that brilliant follow-up to the story, disclosing that the police had not bothered to tell not only the Jewish community, but the intended targets. Look, it might be convenient for the police to operate in secret, but that's really not good enough in this instance. I think that the broader point here, this is another example of why much of the concern about the rise of anti-Semitism around Australia at the moment, and we've seen these kind of coordinated attacks overnight in Sydney recently, in recent weeks, is due to too much secrecy and a lack of demonstrated action in public by the New South Wales Police and the authorities. Yes, absolutely, the public deserves full disclosure, but it deserves to see that the police and the public deserves to see evidence of the police that they're doing all they can to stop this problem. And that, if they did, that would send a clear message that investigations are underway and bad actors will not only be caught and punished, but we don't have that because we're operating in this kind of atmosphere of secrecy. And I think finally as well, my last point on this would be, we need to know from the Prime Minister, how much information did he have about the planning of a mass terrorist attack, and what action did he actually take when he got that information? And we still don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. And Christy, there's lots of questions over that. There are some reports, perhaps a bit of speculation, that the New South Wales Police didn't even bother to brief that National Security Cabinet. And if that becomes shored up, that is an absolute disgrace. But what I want to get your thoughts on, as a communications expert, Webb's performance, the way that she is communicating to the public, very important part of that top job there. How would you rate it? And do you have any tips for her?
Well, she could go on a holiday and put someone else in charge who performs better, giving the public confidence that the New South Wales government and the New South Wales Police are lockstep together in reducing the escalation of the ongoing anti-Semitic activity in Sydney, and of course we see it here in Melbourne too. The high levels of anxiety and stress of parents in the Jewish community whose children are now this week back to school, travelling in their school uniforms, taking public transport, that anxiety and that fear and that lack of confidence in the police after we've seen these issues come to light this week is very, very real. Chris Minns, of course, has been a significant leader in making strong decisions and using strong language that Australians have been desperate to hear and that have been missing at a federal level. And the other point I'd like to make here too is that this is a joint state-federal counter-terrorism operation. When issues of this significant nature are undertaken by state and federal police, the minister is informed generally every step of the way, both the federal minister and the state police minister and the premier and highly likely the prime minister. There is nothing in my experience at an operation of this level inside federal and state government that tells me they would not know. And if they didn't, there are more problems going on in those governments than we know about.
Well, if Albo did know, as you're saying, that it's customary for these ministers to be briefed and then he should have been briefed by the relevant minister in this situation, that is an absolute disgrace. And I think to Darren's point, it is weird that he won't just say what he knew, that he's been dodging it at the press conferences this week, and I think that's very problematic. He owes everybody an answer about that.